Okay, I'm Truong Anh Tuan, call me Tuan, from Vietnam. I'm the Vice President of VFOSSA. It stands for Vietnam Free and Open Source Software Association. About 5 years ago, we tried to form up from a lot of open source community to an association called VFOSSA. Today I would like to introduce about our association and then something about the FOSS ecosystem in Vietnam, and the last one is a case study, a brand new project, open source project just open for public sector. Who we are? Well, we are a kind of local NGO. We act in non-profits and try to promote open source and open things, every open things in Vietnam. We founded in 2012, and before that we are a lot of small communities, for example Linux user groups or some other kinds of community. We try to form up into an association for better working with government, with university, with enterprises and so on. Nowadays we have about 50 members. It's increased weeks to weeks, month to month. We try to enlarge our association. We have some kind of universities, institutes, government agencies, enterprises, and hundreds of individual members. In VFOSSA, we try to represent for the Vietnam open source communities to work with government agencies. We try to consult them to do the best thing for the IT system, for the e-government. We try to propose policy changes for them to have better policies for IT development. We working with the whole committees. Nowadays, the open source committee members in Vietnam about hundreds, thousands people. They divided to a lot of small community. We try to connect them together to promote open things, everything. Like open source, open hardware, open data, open educational resources, and a lot of other open things. We try to work with universities, institutes, and other educational organizations. Try to do capacity building to have more human resources for open source. That's the VFOSSA, our organization, our association. Next, I would like to introduce a little about the open source ecosystem in Vietnam. In Vietnam, we have most of organizations in Vietnam now try to involve into the open source community, including the government agencies. We have the main big IT related ministry, like the Ministry of Information and Communications. They have a lot of policy to promote and encourage the open source uses in Vietnamese government agencies. we have Ministry of Science and Technology who support a lot to promote, to do localization, to do buildings, open source solutions, and so on. We have a lot of other government agencies currently use open source every sector. In universities, we are working with a lot of universities in Vietnam, both IT or non-IT universities. We work with state universities, but especially we prefer to work with private universities because their policy, their needs is more close to the open source. They can easily to decide. They can easily decide to adopt to open source. In Vietnam, we work with a lot of universities along the Vietnam, from the north to the south. You know, Vietnam is a long country. Hanoi, Da Nang, Ho Chi Minh City, Cần Thơ, and a lot of big cities. Some institute we just government just established the center called National Center for Research and Development Open Technology. They just established, but they will have much to the community to do more open source research and development. I believe that. In FOSS ecosystem in Vietnam, we also have enterprises. As I mentioned before, we have about 50 members in VFOSSA. Over half of them are companies, are enterprises, and they may be open source user, open source integrator, or higher open source contributor. They run some open source projects, open source community, a lot of levels. We have also a lot of individuals like a traditional Linux user group, Fedora or Ubuntu community in Vietnam. Or there may be some localization team for Ubuntu, for LibreOffice, Mozilla, or something. We have a committee in DevOps, system engineer, or in programming like Python, Java, PHP, or something. A lot of type of committees and a lot of individuals members try to involve into the open source communities. We also try to promote some other related open things like open technologies, insurance, open data. Earlier of this month, March, we organized the first open data event in Hanoi, the Vietnam capital. It's called Open Data International Day. And now I would like to bring to you a case study. We just established a new project. It's called OpenCPS, stand for Core Public Services. In government agencies, the Vietnamese government try to build e-government. In the past, they bought a lot of proprietary solutions from Microsoft, from IBM, or some other vendors. Even in Vietnam, the enterprises in Vietnam, they provide solutions to the government by proprietary solutions, not much open source. Some other try to provide open source, but they pick open source, maybe close it, give it to the government, something else. But it's in the past. Now, a lot of enterprises in Vietnam, they see the chances to provide services, open source services to government. That's why we come up with about four companies. We try to form up to the projects for public services. That's open source project called OpenCPS. From the four companies, we try to apply the open source development model from the beginning, from the README file. What project is or something, we try to put them a license. Here is AGPL, and try to put everything on GitHub in AGPL license. We try to have transparent roadmap and plan to encourage more people to join into our project. We try to do the methodology like document first and then code following. So from the beginning, a lot of documents put on the GitHub, put on the wiki, a lot of guideline, roadmap, plans, and everything. We try to build documentation first, and then encourage people to join into our project. You can see our project just open about a month, but everything open on GitHub, and we have public communication channels on mailing list, RC, and we have regular meetings on IRC with Meetbot to log the meeting minutes. We have a website. If you can see on the internet everything. So we try to do documentation first, as I mentioned before. Everything business analysis like software requirement, specification, and system architect, detail design, test case, test plan, installation guides, packaging, or a lot of documentations. We wrote guidelines for the contributor to join into our project, development process, coding conventions, Git flow guidelines, job description for each role in join into the project, public communication, of course, and a lot of things. We try to do documentation first. We also public the whole system architecture, just very simple, but we will try to make it more detailed later and later. Open from the beginning. In our architecture, the system architecture, we try to build a backend and have room for everyone to build front end to connect that backend, including Java, PHP, .NET, mobile, or everything. They can make any front end to connect to our open source backend with the API, predefined API. That is Git flow we apply it to the project. We try to open to public the roadmap for this year, and we try to make the roadmap for next several years. And after a month, we trying to do the right things. I think they are the right things. And after a month, from 4 companies, we encourage another some other company. Now we have dozens contributors from over 10 companies in Vietnam, because the core public service, the first versions of it, we want to apply to Vietnamese government, so maybe it's suitable for Vietnamese to come first. But in the future, maybe we want to elastic to the other country, ASEAN or all over. I would like to put something about another long-term project, open source project in Vietnam. It's called NukeViet CMS. Why I would like to mention to this project? Because this is one of the first community want to join into OpenCPS to build a front end. It's a CMS built on PHP a long time, about 10 years in Vietnam, open source 10 years, and they want to build a front end to connect into OpenCPS backend. A lot of interesting things. We try to connect the community together. So that's all. I want to introduce something about Vietnam. Thank you. Have you got any question? Okay.
For the open for the OpenCPS, you choose AGPL as a copyright to it. Why AGPL?
Yeah. As I try to introduce, I want to introduce a bit about myself. I participate in open source community about 15 years, and I dig into the licensing a lot. Firstly, OpenCPS, I would like to build a project which open every time, the whole life. When I use the license like this, I want the next derivation on the next fork, they use the same license, so we can choose GPL. But we decided to use AGPL because one more statement, they reinforce if the service provider try to run OpenCPS on their cloud with some change or without change anything, but they must open the source for the user. That's why, because in Vietnam nowadays the member companies in OpenCPS not have big 4 companies like Viettel, VNVT or something. We want to protect OpenCPS project. If Viettel or something want to use OpenCPS to run on our cloud to provide services to government, they must open the source code as under ACPL license. That's the reason. Okay. Any more questions?
How long did the process of combining all these various open source groups take to organize your first meeting of VFOSS?
VFOSSA.
VFOSSA.
Yeah. Okay. About VFOSSA, I would like to introduce Mr. Quang, our president. Mr. Quang, can you stand up?
Yes.
Yeah. We are in separate communities for a long time. As I mentioned, I joined into the open source projects for over 15 years, including a lot of big community in all over the world, like Fedora. Fedora community know me a lot. So in Vietnam, we are in separated communities. Then we try to one day we sit down together and decided we must have a bigger group, an official group to do something, do some better thing, official things. So as a long time participating in open source community like me, like Mr. Quang and some other, we just decided, and then we try to connect to the government agencies and as an association, as an organization, like Vietnam Association for Information Processing. So we try to convince them to accept us to be the new member in the community, in the society. That's all. It's easy.
Yeah, I was a bit curious because I noticed you listed in your member organizations or parts of, or who is part of VFOSSA, some ministries and private I guess if you have smaller groups from private universities, it's easier to convince them to join and to take part in your organization.
Yeah.
But talking to government can be a nightmare for so I was wondering how long, whether you face any roadblocks in that process or anything that
the time before VFOSSA established, we already have some connection with government agencies, not just from VFOSSA established before that. So when we form up to an official association, it's much easier for us to work with the government agencies. Much easier. We work with them before, but after that, it's much easier. We have an official voice for the open source community to talk with government agencies. After the VFOSSA established a lot of other policies to promote open source and other IT sectors. It's not a nightmare.
Just one question. Yeah.
Okay.
While talking about Vietnam, one part I think you are mentioning that you are working on the policy segment. In the policy segment, in one part there are laws which prevents freedom of expression. For example, copy pasting from a social media can even get you jailed. That kind of laws are there. So usually in many countries I found FOSS people are the same people campaigning for freedom of expression, but that resulting in a hate and love and hate relationship with government. So how you find, because while working with government, if you are campaigning against them in some other aspects, sometimes it will not work. So how you are finding the balance?
Yeah. It's difficult. It's not easy. Yeah, first of all, in the past, the open source situation is really bad, and following the movement from all over the world, and inside Vietnam we have an official organization, so we try to put together inside community and outside community to push our government. It's not easy. It's a long story.
I think we would do well to maybe have another talk, 2-hour session for the whole series of long stories that we have.
Yeah.
But in the absence of other questions, let's thank the speaker again.
Okay. Thank you.